Welcome to the She Hit Refresh podcast, a podcast for women aged 30 and up who are ready to fast track their lives abroad. I'm your host, Seppi, rhymes with Peppy. And if you've been craving more out of life, more freedom, more adventure, more purpose by moving abroad, but feel like it's too late or too complicated to make such a major life change, I want to let you know that it's not. This podcast is full of stories that prove it's never too late to hit refresh. I want to give a big shout out to our season sponsor, International Living, for helping make this podcast season possible. So let's dive in. I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Cheryl, who made the bold decision to leave behind a life in California, including her multi-million-dollar furniture business of 30 plus years, to follow her dream of moving abroad. In September 2023, Cheryl sold and donated nearly all of her belongings and made the leap to Tirana, Albania in her 50s. And this was a place that wasn't even on her radar a few years before. Cheryl is a world traveler, a tea enthusiast, and a dog lover who has visited all 7 continents and over 40 countries. She's also deeply passionate about personal growth, and after decades of working, she's now on a sabbatical, a very much earned sabbatical. She's exploring what this next chapter of life looks like with curiosity, openness, and intention. Cheryl, welcome to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, Steffi, it's so good to see you. Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you on because we are talking about a country that we haven't yet talked about on the podcast, and that is Albania, where you now live. We will get into all the details of that, but let's take it back because I want people to know your story about what your life looked like before you made your move abroad.
Okay, well, I lived in the Los Angeles area, actually in the South Bay. It's a little beach town called Redondo Beach, and did own a house too that was like in the South Bay area. So I lived partially in the city of Hawthorne, and then I moved to Redondo Beach. I was there for 23 years. And just built a nice life there. I made a nice circle of friends. I had some romantic relationships, and I built my business. So I had a full life in Los Angeles. I really loved living near the beach. I moved there when I was 30. So it was like the perfect time in my life to live there. But like the charm of living there was wearing off for sure.
Okay, so you had very established roots there. You had built a life there. Let's talk a bit about their business because you had your own business, a successful multi-million-dollar furniture business for over 30 years. So number one, congrats on building that because that is no easy feat. And to have a business for 30 years that is successful is incredible. So my question here is, what made you decide it was finally time to walk away from your life in LA, what you had built there, and pursue this dream of living abroad? What was the catalyst, or how did you even get this idea?
I was very fortunate about, I created a business where I was able to travel. Initially, it was supposed to be, I created this business so I could be a stay-at-home mom. One of my relationships, he wanted to have kids, and it's very expensive to live in Los Angeles. So I was creating the business so I could work part-time and still raise kids. And then that didn't work out. And then I'm like, okay, well, I have all this extra time. I did a lot of different things in the furniture industry. What I created to be less hands-on was supplying fine consignment stores. I had up to 30 at one time. I did some importing, and then I could do some drop shipping, and I could load up all the stores, and I could take off to different countries around the world. And so I created a business to fit my lifestyle. I was like, okay, I'm going to travel. And I went to Morocco, and I don't know, there was something there. I was just like, I just want to move abroad. And I went and met a bunch of friends, and I'm like, I think I want to move to Morocco. Actually, I want to move to Morocco. I knew from that point on that I had to honor myself to do it. And I just didn't know the how. And so in 2017, that's about when I started downsizing. I sold my property in LA, and then I sold my property in Las Vegas. And then I thought, well, I should meet somebody. I really should just date, and, maybe I can move with somebody. So I did the dating thing, and I got involved with somebody. I got rid of like 60% of my items. And then my dog went to doggy heaven. properties are gone. I'm in a rental home in LA. And then the relationship was just not going to work out. And there was just this, like Moses parting the sea. I was like, if not now, when? And we happened to be in the Middle East at the time. And I knew it was done. And I just started looking for places to move to in the shuttle on the way back to Tel Aviv. I was like, I'm doing this. And I don't know exactly when. I think I was 52 at the time. And so I'm like, if not now, when? That was the catalyst, was pretty much my dog went to doggy heaven. My relationship was just not going to work out. And I just wanted to say yes to myself.
Oof, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing, because yeah, that really shows that this wasn't a decision you made on a whim. Like the seed was planted a few years before you made your move, but then life happens, right? And I think that's so interesting what you say about like prioritizing dating at that stage in your life. I know when I made my move at 35 and told people that, some of the like fears that I think people were projecting on me were like, well, don't you want to get married and have kids? Is this move going to somehow derail that? Also making assumptions like that's what I wanted, right? People didn't even know, but there's just like expectations as a woman of what you should be doing. So feeling maybe also that you should be in a relationship because everyone around you maybe is very natural, I think. And then, yeah, it sounds like life happened, but then you had your opportunity to choose you, which I think is incredible. And which you did. Just because you wanted to do it and you chose yourself doesn't mean that's an easy decision and there's no fears involved with that. So I'm curious to hear about, once you decided in your mind, like, I'm going to do this and I need to figure out how to do this, what kind of fears and doubts came up as you were moving towards your move abroad?
Because of the pandemic, I had to warehouse product in order to have product for my clients. I had north of $500,000 of inventory. I knew I couldn't just pack up and leave because I had $10,000 worth of storage every month. I belong to a cultural exchange group. So in the meantime, I'm going to bring the world to me. And so I did some hosting. I hosted people from Europe. That was in like April of 2022. So by January of 2023, I was down to like 5 units. And I was like, okay, this is getting real. All right. And then I don't really have to leave. I've got my community. I've got my routine. I live in Los Angeles. I'm 2 miles from the beach. I've got my gym. And that's when I sought out you. And there was another coach. I'm like, I better just hire a coach because I think it's so easy just not to go. I didn't have a reason. I had a reason. I had a dream. I did a lot of interviews. I met people online. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. And then I went on a scouting trip. I just wanted to make sure that if I'm going to make this major life change and move, that I've done all my research. So fast forward to when I met you in May of 2023, because I was still like, well, I don't really need to go. I can just travel and come and have my home base in LA. You know, what's the big deal? So I didn't have anybody in my life locally that wanted to do the same thing that I wanted to do. In fact, they're talking me out of going. And I knew that if I didn't create a community of women that wanted to do what I wanted to do, that I probably wouldn't have left.
Definitely. Well, that makes sense. Well, a few things there. I think what you mentioned is what a lot of people feel, and I felt too, of what I like to say, you have this good life, right? So it's like, why leave? But I always go back to that saying of my good life. I felt like my good life was getting in the way of a great life, and that was my motivator. But a lot of people are okay with the good life, right? Because like you said, you had all the comforts, the community, your routine. So it's can be scary to leave that for the unknown, right? When you have it good. And then also finding community is so powerful. And that's when we met. Yes, we met when you took my masterclass, which was called the boot camp at the time. I think we had 90 women in that cohort that joined. And then I'm sure that was impactful of meeting other people who got you. That's so important, I think, just to surround yourself with people who don't think it's a crazy idea, who aren't trying to talk you out of it, who have the same dream. And also, I love that you did the research and reached out to people, because meeting people who have done the thing you want to do, that is just so powerful to get the information, but also to have an example of your dream and see that it's a real possibility. So a few things there. You said you went on the scouting trip. I want to see, was that to Albania? And if so, how did Albania even get on your radar?
I'm like going on my phone and I'm Googling safe places for solo women over 50 to live in Europe, go. That's how it started. And it was like Malta and Aix-en-Provence and Alicante, Spain. And I'm like, oh, Malta. I could do Malta. It's like perfectly positioned. They speak English. And so what I did was, just because I was heartbroken having to break up and have another failed relationship, I forced myself to go to the gym, get on the elliptical, and put an expat podcast in my ear. And there was a guy named Tim Leffel, and he wrote a book, something about living overseas on half the price or something like that. And they're interviewing him. In the last 5 minutes, he's like, I have to check out Albania. Albania, and I'm well traveled. I've been all over the place. What the Albania? And then, he's like, and, Americans can live there visa free for a year. And I'm like, how come I didn't know that? And that's where it started. I was just digging and digging and digging and meeting people online and doing Zoom calls. I didn't even know where Albania was until I looked on the map and I was like, wow, it's next to Greece. Oh my goodness. And it faces Italy. And I was just like, oh, is this for real?
People listening right now maybe don't even know where Albania is, because I think it's still under the radar. And when you found out about it, I think maybe it was just starting to get some buzz because, as you mentioned, what a lot of people don't know is that U.S. citizens can move to Albania visa free for a year, which is incredible because in Europe, there really isn't anywhere you can do that other than Georgia, the country. So Albania makes it an easy place to move to where you don't have to deal with paperwork. And you can also try it out without risking too much, right?
My friend and I went to Greece first, and then we took a ferry from Corfu to the port of Tirana, and that's where it started. And Seppi, I felt like I was home. I have never felt that way about any country I've been to. I was home. And then we hired a driver to drive us through because, I was reading all this stuff about Albania, about the crazy drivers. I wanted to live near the sea because I lived near the beach for 23 years. So I was like, I'm a beach girl. And I was reading about Tirana and how dirty it is and smoggy and crazy and this and that. I didn't even want to go to Tirana. And then our driver took us there because we were going to Montenegro the next day and we spent the night. And as soon as I got here, I was like, I'm home.
Well, I love that you had what I like to call the Goldilocks moment. So you found your place. And for listeners who don't know much about Albania, Tirana is the capital city and it is not by the sea. So it's an interior city. And Saranda that you mentioned that you went to on a ferry from Corfu is a seaside kind of resort town. When I went to Albania last year, I was in Tirana and met Cheryl in person. And then we actually went to Saranda and the coast together. So that was really fun. Oh, so you got to Tirana and you're like, oh, okay, I could live here. I could do this. But were you only in Tirana for that one night or did you end up staying longer?
One night. It was just one night. And I'm like, I'm home. And I think because I've always had a desire to live in New York City when I was younger. And it felt like a mild version of New York City. Like it's a cozy city, but it's a walking city. And I've always wanted to live in a walking city. And it just had this buzz, this vibe to it that I was like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a very walkable city and it's a city where people stay up late. And I love a late night city. There definitely is a buzz to it. A very social city. I've mentioned this before, but I was there for 3 weeks and I feel like my social calendar was more buzzing and full there than it is in Malaga, which is a bigger city. So definitely seems like a great spot if you also are moving on your own. Also a very safe city from what I experienced and gathered.
Very safe. I mean, I'll walk home 1 a.m. from a concert or something. And it's just, yeah. And it's not because I'm taking a risk. It's a very safe, everyone minds their own business here.
All right. So then you had visited Albania. That was the September 2022 trip. Is that right? Yes. Okay. And then I remember you joined the masterclass. And then at the time I was doing an accelerator, which is now like the Refreshers Lounge. But you basically, from the time you took that masterclass in the spring of 2023, in the fall of that same year, you were on a plane on your way moving to Albania, which is incredible.
Yes. I don't think I would have done it without your support and your community. I really don't. Because it was like, in fact, I wanted to go in April of 2022 and I had some ice stuff going on. And then I'm like, all right, well, it's going to be hot in the summer. I'll wait till September. And then I took your accelerator course and I still stay in touch with people. I stayed in touch with people from the boot camp and the accelerator. I kept being in motion getting rid of stuff, selling stuff. And then my friend from Las Vegas came out and she's like, yeah, I want to help you. And I'm like, you know what would really support me is if you sit here at the other computer and watch me book my ticket to Albania. Because I was like, I need your support. I just need you to hold me accountable. So I did it. I went on and I took a video of it. I'm like, here we go. I think I even sent you the video. I'm like, yeah, it's done. So now I have a deadline. I have to be out by the end of the month. Game on.
Accountability helps so much in community as well. I love that you had someone there to make sure that you were going to do the thing that you said you wanted to do. So we talked about your inventory, but part of the moving abroad process is downsizing and decluttering our own possessions, right? I know this is something that you did a lot of, that you are very passionate about. I think you have a really good system to that. And I think this is actually something people underestimate of how long it's going to take, how exhausting it is. It's not just physically exhausting to go through all of our things, but it can also be really emotionally intense. Because we're not just sifting through things. For a lot of us, we're sifting through memories. We're deciding what to keep, what to sell, what to let go of. There's so many micro decisions that have to be made, sentimental decisions. And so just curious to see what that experience was like for you and any advice you have for people to approach this, whether that's like practical steps or just mindset tips.
Yes, it's just a key factor. You're not going to be able to move abroad unless you manage your belongings. Even if you just throw it all in storage, that's got to be managed somehow. And it's a huge part. It's not just a huge sentimental, it's a huge financial. And I think I would start to build a muscle of letting go. It's like when you're in the gym and you start with 10 pounders and then you go to 20 pounders. It's definitely a process. So I would say that it's normal to be attached to your things. It's normal to feel a range of emotions. I remember I was going through my garage in July of 2023. It was right before I was leaving and I wanted to hand off all of the family photos. And I'm sitting in my living room going through all these old photos, framed photos of my grandmother, my mother, and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm laughing and I'm crying. And so as well as selling stuff on eBay. And if you have like high-end, luxury goods, I didn't have that much. I had my nice SUV though. I liked my SUV. So letting go of my car. Yeah, it's just a process. And I think what helped me a lot is just having my friends come over, especially toward the end. What I would recommend is you just start with the low hanging fruit and then you just build it up from there. And then as it was getting really personal, I just had my friends come. They were all taking turns coming over and I was giving away things. I was selling things and I did rounds in the kitchen, in my office, in my bedroom. It's not an easy process. And it went through a range of emotions. I don't think people realize how much money they have in their household. It may look like, okay, yeah, I have this mouse and this is $1. But if you times that by 1,000 things, the average household in America has 300,000 items. It's a lot. So it's not just emotional and sentimental, it's financial. Your stuff has value. I had over 500 pieces of furniture I had to sell when I was in the US a few months ago. And it was very stressful. But I also had $40,000 worth of inventory. So it's not a small amount of money. And so I had to do another move while I was in the States to salvage the investment that I had there. And that's going to carry me through this year until I figure out what I'm going to do. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And so my advice is just know that it's hard. You're going to have a range of emotions. And even if you need to make the micro step, take the next step and get support.
Definitely. Thank you for that insight and advice. Yeah, I always tell people it's never too early to start. So whether you want to move abroad in 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, start going through your stuff now. We actually have a member in the lounge who is taking 20 minutes a day to go through things with her husband, because trying to do that, have time on the weekend, it's exhausting. It's a lot to try to do these in one go or like hours at a time. So even if you can just do 20 minutes a day, a drawer in the kitchen, a shelf in the closet, that will help you get through this, because you don't want to leave this for the last minute or the last few months.
No.
There are so many other things you have to think about and other decisions you have to be making. And this will really add a lot of stress to that move. So thank you.
No, you're absolutely right. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. He talks about the micro steps. If everybody could do 15, 20 minutes a day, that really adds up more than, okay, I have to do this major move. It's just less stressful when you're able to do it in steps. I got rid of most of my things except 8 suitcases when I moved to Albania. I had a yard sale just a few weeks ago. I even had my mom's really old watch. It was a favorite watch of hers, and it needed to be repaired. And I was just holding on to it. And then this jewelry dealer came, and I thought, is it going to sit in a drawer for another 10 years? It's just going to take stages and just to be really compassionate with yourself.
Great advice. All right. Well, let's bring it back to Albania because I want to know more then about when you first got there. What surprised you the most? Yeah, in the beginning. And what has been the biggest challenge to adjusting to life in Albania?
Well, I was very fortunate because my former neighbors advertised the apartment that I'm living in. They're from the US, and my landlord lived in the US for 6 years, speaks fluent English, and he even picked me up at the airport when I got here. So I had a very soft landing coming here, and there's a cafe right next to me. So he was running the cafe at the time. He said, do you want to come over for coffee? Because that's the big thing in Albania is people meet up for coffee, the big coffee culture. And then he would just introduce me to people all the time. So it was just a really soft landing for me. I was surprised at just what an easy transition it was for me living in a foreign country. So I was just surprised at how friendly the people were. I mean, authentically friendly. When I go to a country, I don't expect people to speak English. And I did hire a tutor, and I have a lot of Albanian friends. And I don't think I'm ever going to master the language. I can say words because it's a really hard language. And so I just think that people need to take that in consideration when they move to a country. So yeah, I would say that. And the infrastructure is a little messy compared to other countries. Public transport isn't the same. Nothing's perfect. There is some flaws, as there is anywhere. Right? The good outweighs the bad for me.
Well, I can see, that the language, when I was there, I tried to learn some words, and it is challenging because you have no reference point. But I was surprised at how many people, especially those under 40 in Tirana, speak English at a high level. So that was great. And then the infrastructure, I think that's something to point out because when people talk about moving to Europe, maybe they have, Paris in mind or somewhere in Spain or Italy. And that's not Albania. Albania is just on a different timeline, right? They have only recently, very recently in recent history, come out of communism. So it is very much a country that is in development in many ways. And so whether that's buildings or even roads, Tirana as a functioning city, but still the country as a whole is going through like a growth spurt, a growth phase right now.
Major growth spurt. In the last 3.5 months too, I was just like, oh, there's this building and that building, and they're expanded the freeway, the autostrada, they call it here. But yeah, so Albania is growing fast, like it's really growing. And yes, there's just going to be, it's a little more, not as maybe functional as where you live in Spain. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And it's totally livable, workable. I'm fine with it. Some people may not be. We don't have a metro system. I love walking. A lot of people walk. The buses are pretty crowded. They finally have the bus routes on Google Maps. That's something new. So things are changing all the time.
I think that's great for people to know. And also, if anyone's interested in Albania, definitely do a scouting trip because it's a country that is, at a different point in its history than some of the countries that people may be looking at, the Portugals, the Spain, the Italy's, the France. It's also a lot more affordable than a lot of countries in Western Europe. I think Albania is actually one of the most affordable countries in Europe right now.
I'm on a lot of expat Facebook groups, and people have been mentioning that the cost of living is going up because it's getting more popular. Still, comparatively, mind you, I'm from the Los Angeles area, so I'm paying probably 20% of what I paid in Los Angeles. So your dollar goes a lot further here. And I'm very grateful because I want to come up with a new business, and I have the luxury to just breathe because it is very affordable here comparatively.
Yeah, well, you've earned that this stage of your life, building a business and running that for 30 years. This is time for you to lean into that sabbatical and spend your days how you like to. And I'm curious to hear, how do you spend your days? Can you let us know what a typical day or not so typical day looks like for you since you are, on your sabbatical in your new chapter.
That's a great question because I just got back. So I've been doing a lot of sleeping and catching up. I live really close to a lake and I live next to the zoo. So I hear Leo the lion roaring. I love walking around the lake. I just went to my gym and I just love meeting up with friends, whether it's for coffee. It was a friend's birthday last week. I think that's what's really important too. I just, now that I'm talking about it, is how, for me, how important it is to have a hub to live in. I don't think I could be the type that moves every 2 to 3 months or whatever. I've really built some really good relationships. It's the people that really make Tirana, whether it's just meeting up for dinner or going to a concert. My friend has a little meditation center, so I love going there on Thursdays now. I'm going to go visit my friend in Paris in a few weeks. The airport is 20 minutes away, and it's easy to just go and travel throughout Europe and even Africa. I went to the Maldives last year and I was able to fly out of here to go to the Maldives. So yeah, it's a small city or a cozy city. And yet there's so much here and then so much outside of here as well.
I got to have a glimpse into your life when I was there, and it does seem that you have a great community there. You're plugged into a community, like you're part of something. And I think that is so important to have when we move abroad, because the people really make the place. Like, you could be living in the best city in the world, but if you don't have a sense of community or friends, you can feel very lonely there. And I really got the impression that you have some good people in your life. And that kind of brings me to my next question, since we're getting towards the end of the podcast here, because now it's been definitely over a year since you moved. And just like with your reflections looking back, like, how do you feel about your decision? Do you feel like it was the right decision? I'm assuming so, but I'd love to hear from you. Just looking back.
I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful I just did it. For your listeners, I want them to know there's no wrong decision. I did a lot of research. That didn't mean that it was going to be a good move. I just got very, very lucky. And my landlord picked me up at the airport a week and a half ago. And I came back to my partner. I'm like, oh my God, thank God. I'm so happy to be home. Thank you, God. I love it here. I really love it. And I don't know if this will be my forever place. People do circulate in and out. I love it. I love my life here. I also do travel a lot too. I'm so happy I moved here. I really am. I just feel right at home and I'm so grateful.
I love that. Especially, like, it's such a joy and an honor for me to watch people go through the journey, like meeting you in the masterclass when this was your idea and you knew you wanted to do it, and then watching you take the steps. And then meeting you in your new life in Albania, which was so cool last year to see you there. And just to hear you say that you love your life, like things are still just incredible for you abroad. So I'm just so proud of you that you did it. And you should be definitely so proud of yourself. And that leads me to my last question here, or my next to last, because you did, in your bio, you say that you said your vision is to be a lens and a light for other women, which I love. So what would you say to someone who's listening out there who is dreaming of moving abroad, especially women in their 50s, but feel like they're stuck? It's too late. They're too old. There's too much at risk. What would you say to that woman?
It's never too late. I think the most important thing is just to really create your community of like-minded women that want to do the same thing. Because people at home, they love me and don't want me to go. So they're not going to be the most supportive. So I'm going to give it back to you. You know, what your mission is and what you do is so important because you have a really well-curated community of women. And and I would say get involved with your community. I had to create my own refreshers lounge because you didn't have yours.
The refreshers lounge did not exist when I worked with Cheryl.
Exist.
Yeah.
And so I would say that creating your community is key. And also just because I've witnessed people that have come to Albania, it's very important to do a scouting trip. It's not London or Malta, where they speak English. Do a scouting trip for sure. I feel like I've added 5 to 10 years to my life. And if tomorrow's my last day, I'm complete. I did it. I'm good. I'm really good. I hope I live many years. And I know I can now say that I don't have any regrets. No regrets. So just do it.
Amazing. I'm just taking that in. Thank you, Cheryl. Well, I'm sure people listening out there are like, I need to connect with her and I want to know more about Albania. So, where can people find you?
So my Instagram is Fearless Wanderer with an O, not an A. And the fearless is that I still have fear. That's the thing. It's not like I'm fearless. It's just fearing less, so I do it anyways.
Yes, do it. So we will drop the link to your Instagram in the show notes for sure. So Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing about your life and your journey and living in Albania. I know it's going to inspire many other women out there to take a look and also to get started on hitting refresh on their life. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm just so in awe of what you do. You were part of this, so I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and leave feeling like a move abroad is even more possible for you. If you're happy with what you saw, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a question or comment because I would love to hear from you. If you're ready to take action on your dream to move abroad, be sure to grab my Visa Guide to Europe. It's your roadmap to over 50 viable visa options in 19 countries. You can grab the link below in the show notes. And don't forget to get on the wait list for my next Move Abroad After 30 Masterclass, a masterclass for women age 30 and up, which is a step-by-step training to help you fast-track your move abroad. And grab the link in the show notes as well. And last but not least, a huge shout out to our sponsor, International Living. Thank you so much for making this season possible. Until next time, ciao for now.